Louie, Louie, Louie. Louie, 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 Louie. Louie, Louie, you're gonna die. Walks down into the comedy cellar, kills. Everything feels good. I'm Jessica Seeley. Remember how I was super inspired by Louis C.K. when I got into stand-up? And he was so cool and he felt so safe to me. Do you guys remember that? Honestly, his jokes were so good. Now he's popping up in my Instagram stories like for an ad for his show in Long Beach, and he looks so scary. They just chose like the most scary, predatory looking picture of him. I don't know what he's up to these days. I don't know if he still is like kind of progressive. I don't know how much he understands why he was inappropriate and disappointing. It feels listen, his actions I could have forgiven. Like I they weren't so bad that I couldn't jump back on board with some growth. But I don't know if I see the growth, you know. Now I'm just like, you just showed me that you aren't handling power interestingly to me. I mean, I guess masturbating in front of people is kind of interesting. But anyway, not that I feel, okay, I don't want to get into like a whole thing with this. I definitely don't subscribe to, like you wouldn't be able to say this in an office setting, so you can't say it to your peers in comedy. We're just not the same as the people by the water cooler. I don't think that we should have excuses for being inappropriate or sexual harassment and stuff, but it's like our whole thing is like we say crazy shit. Like that's like, not that there shouldn't be like guardrails and respect around it, but we definitely shouldn't be having a water cooler HR come over. I don't know what to say about that. I was just thinking about Louis C.K. and his role in my timeline. Remember when we used to call the Facebook page the timeline? Is that still a thing? I had Facebook when it was just for college emails. And I just had to say that at some point on this podcast because I'm an elder in that way. And we're talking about timelines. And I know that you guys know that. But part of being my generation is like at some point you just have to say that. Like you just have to let them know that what Facebook was and that you were posting drunk pictures of yourself on it. And you haven't been hired since. And now Mark Zuckerberg is an overlord with his bunker trying to wait for us all to die so that he can create his meta land on a mass scale. I don't know. I watched some of the Peter Thiel interview. I wish I didn't say that because I don't want to talk about it. But I'm weighed down. I was having nightmares last night. I just woke up. I was having nightmares about ICE like taking people, and I woke up like actually nauseous, and I thought I almost yeah. So strange scary time. I'm kind of hoping that everyone who listens to this is pushing back as much as they can against ICE. I don't know how, but we got to figure it out. Anywho, this is a fun episode with Steve Hernandez. And Steve he did the hosting on my album, Weird Vibes. Hope you guys have it. And he's a hilarious comic. And I kind of credit him / blame him for keeping me in comedy a little bit, because after the pandemic, he kind of roped me into hosting and being involved with his Chatterbox night in Covina, which is just so fun that I had to keep doing stand-up. I could have just bowed out after not performing because of COVID for so long. But I've got these people that believe in me and don't want me to stop. And I'm a prisoner of the laughs. I continue. Even in fascist times. It doesn't make sense to me, and it makes me feel weird and bad to have to think about comedy when so much horror is happening. But I will say when I'm actually on stage, I'm like, okay, this makes sense. I feel like something good happening. I feel people coming together. I feel things making sense. I had a set in San Clemente, which I was very scared about because it's kind of conservative area. Last time I did a set there, they just hated me. I walked on stage. I opened with some library jokes and they were just like, nope, don't read. You suck. You're the worst. You're a libtard, whatever, et cetera, et cetera. But I performed there the other night and had a really great time. And I just want to say that I did like a really good job of like threading the needle of like being my kind of, I don't want to say political self, that's not even the right, my concerned, depressed, scared, progressive self that's not okay with things happening. But in this conservative area where my job is to make people laugh, but I think I did a good job of being myself and kind of like having that consciousness in the atmosphere without putting them down. And like, yes, technically I like put them down, but I did it in such a fun way that it's not actually making me like a superior. And that to me is like the most important part of comedy is like, I'm not shitting on you. I'm not owning you. I'm getting you to laugh, but I'm also like, what the hell? So I started off kind of risky for a crowd that hated me before, basically acknowledging that you could get kind of a Nazi vibe from this town. And I'll play a little clip. I always record my audio in case I come up with a new joke because I'll forget it. But I thought, I'd kind of interact with this podcast a little bit, showing you guys some of my process and my experience, because I don't want to record everything and then put it on Instagram. Sometimes that feels bad, but maybe you guys will appreciate some of my experience in San Clemente. So here's me kind of telling them that they're Nazis. It's crazy out here, very beautiful. It's a little disconcerting to me. I'm not really used to it. I'm not going to say that you guys are Nazis here. But like walking around town, I'm like, this does look like what Hitler was going for. I talk a little bit about the history of surfers and Nazis, and here's like a sample of that. Right, weird connection with surf culture has a bit of a Nazi history, which I just think it's so weird, like that connection though, because I surf as well, and when I'm in the ocean, it's like dolphins. Birds at one with everything, and then I just feel like it's so weird to be paddling around in like the biggest body of water ever and be like, I'm the master ray. Like it's just like I want to exterminate everyone into the way. It's a weird move, right? Then they were getting way too drunk and being rowdy, so I felt like I kind of was able to call that out in a way where I talk about the just kind of like goofy vibe in beach towns with hella privilege. That's what I don't, okay, this is one thing I'll say about beach towns, and this to me is the biggest negative for real, is you can get so drunk and act so obliterated and just walk around and be out, where it's like,
in the city you would just get killed or something. You know what I mean? Like, there's no sort of like Darwinian aspect here. Everyone just stays alive, and it's really irritating. What? Did I say something wrong?
Then at the end of my good news joke, I don't know if any of you have seen me do that joke, but it's just about how my therapist had me listen to good news, and I don't think the good news is good enough. So then I go through some of like the stories of good news that I've listened to and how they're not good enough. And then I say this, which receives only about 3 people laughing.
I want to start my own good news site, but it's just blank until he dies. Sorry, that's just for 3 people, I guess.
And then I did that thing that I told you guys about last episode about my notes to my therapist, and I included that, which isn't really a joke yet, but I said it on stage, which is really great. It means I felt confident that this crowd was open to me, and it did well. So at least we could acknowledge how divisive Trump is and how bad that feels, if nothing else. So here's that part.
I wrote, Trump is so divisive that I lost a relationship with my cousin, and we have the same molestation experience. If anything should bond us together for life, it's that. Same trauma, 2 directions. I don't know what to say. Anyway.
So I don't know. At the end of the day, I felt like some hope underneath some of the ugliness, and comedy in person specifically does that for me. Online, everyone feels so divided, huh? But when we're together, for the most, some people are super just nasty and ugly, and that sucks. But for the most part, people don't want to be shitty. They're just, I don't know. They just need to be guided out. I don't know if I'm being too optimistic this morning. But ultimately, my goal with my comedy, can I achieve it? Who knows? Same with like when I go to protests, it's like, oh, can I actually like get ICE out of here? It's like, who knows? But like, I'm going to show up. I'm going to do it. What else am I doing? Is what I always say. But my goal is like to connect, to de-shame, to kind of like pull back some veil between all of us. And that's what's cool. Comedy really has the power to do that. Can I do that? I don't know. I even want to lift up the veil on my own shame and my own delusions, especially as a white person. I just feel like we live with so many fucking delusions, and living in America and having this kind of what Naomi Klein calls the shadow world of all the people and suffering we're not supposed to see that props up our lifestyles. I want to chip away at that as much as possible. Maybe comedy's not the only tool for that. But these are my goals. All right, you guys. And I appreciate all of you listening to me and supporting me in my process. And I really hope you enjoy my conversation with Steve Hernandez. He's been like so integral to the comedy community in LA for so long. It's like one of the last bastions we have of like having space for like good shit. So hey, go to Chatterbox and Covina sometime and support him and some of these youngsters that he's helping get developed. Basically, he's like helped so many comics that might otherwise be overlooked, like develop their talent. And anywho, enjoy this talk, you guys, and I hope you're doing well, and definitely take care of yourselves. And hey, submit some cool stuff to my podcast that I can talk about and share with everyone. The email and the phone numbers at the end of the call. Okay, love you. Here's Steve Hernandez. Steve Hernandez Day on some timeline.
What a day.
It's a day on a timeline.
We've been looking forward to this for a long time.
This is why TikTok crawled from the ocean onto land.
What is Tiktaalik?
It's the fish that first started moving on land.
I've never heard that it had a name.
That's like the one biology name I remember. I was like, I'm going to remember that. Not to be confused with Tilikum, the SeaWorld whale who killed people.
Have we figured out if you're on the spectrum yet?
I actually just talked to my therapist yesterday and I was like, why am I having such struggles at work? It seems so weird. I feel so bad. And then they were like, look, you're really underestimating like that you're undiagnosed neurodivergent. And I was like, I just feel like that's a TikTok thing. But I like legitimately am afraid of like RFK Jr. and like Nazi times. I don't know how far down the Nazi times we're going to get with this, but hopefully RFK Jr. doesn't listen to this podcast.
As long as you're undiagnosed, he can't prove anything.
Right. It's like, I was just kidding.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But you know, it's funny because I'm recording like all of this on video and I've been watching them for like and I'm like watching my social, like it's the longest I've ever watched me like have a social interaction. And I'm like, I do look kind of autistic because I'll be like listening, but I'll be like, my eyes will go over here and I'm like blinking, like, like processing, downloading.
If you were to be diagnosed as autistic, would a lot of things make sense for you? Like for you, would that open up a thing?
It's possible. I just don't know. Like, I don't know enough about it, but it's like, I think that since I've considered it, I've been a lot more like sensitive to myself about certain things that bother me. Like,
that's good.
And I think my partner has too, like in a way where it's like, it seems like I'm just being weird about some noise or something, but it's like, no, maybe it's really a thing.
Yeah. If it's anything that could allow you to give yourself a break.
Yeah, I'm giving myself more and more of a break all the time. I'm like, because I also like, I don't even know that autism's even real. I think it's just what we call people who aren't like excellent employees. Or like,
I don't know. I like that we figured out autism.
Yeah.
But I guess it's been around for a long time.
I think we're just figuring out like, oh, some people think differently and are different, and that's maybe okay.
Well, Sylvester Stallone, I saw this clip the other day where from like the 80s, like 87, he said, I have an autistic son. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, but wasn't he like, it's a huge bummer that I do. It's really sad and it sucks. Or was that somebody else?
No, I don't. That's not the impression I got. He was just saying my son is autistic. But
I think I saw some clip of him and he's like, nobody knows what we go through and it's sad. We have to, this was maybe somebody else, but I think that there's like parents with autistic children that like aren't good with it. And they're like, then they go down this like anti-vax route and all this.
Well, very autistic. I mean, you know, it fucking sucks, right?
No, for sure. Yeah. I mean, it sucks in terms of like, oh, we don't have a community or like enough resources for it.
Yeah. I mean, when I worked at TGI Fridays, you know, almost 20 years ago, there was a mom who would come in with her son, and her son was maybe like 13 or 14. And I think he was nonverbal, and he would like set up animals on the table. And you could tell it was like a thing. And I don't think we called it autism then or anything, but that poor woman was always exhausted.
That's more of a capitalism problem. Not that it's not hard to like have any sort of like differently abled child, but it's like, let's say back in the day, we're all living in the woods, right? A bunch of us, like fucking hundreds, and we all have our little setups all over the woods, and it's like
we would have killed him. Yes, I agree. Or kept him chained to a hut in the corner of the village.
I don't think that's true. I think we'd be like,
oh no, I think we would have killed them. I think that's what people did.
Not in my village. It's in the it depends on like the civilization or where we're talking about here.
I've never heard of a civilization, and I very well could be wrong, that like valued like forgive me, but like the weak links in the thing.
I don't know. I think that they might have been seen as like having some different like spiritual or other kinds of connections.
I hear you.
I think we were more open to like,
you're talking about straight up Native Americans right now, right?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, kind of. Because, like I was reading in the Doppelganger book, like, in like Ireland and all these other European countries, there would be like lore about like changelings that like, the fairies had captured your real child and exchanged it with a child that is disabled, and like to get back at the fairies you have to like beat these children, and this is something they really did, and they would like torture them.
Oh no.
Because maybe the fairies would give you your child back, or best case scenario you just like.
So we're talking about the same village that I was talking about.
That's your village.
The one that beat
like,
the changelings.
The lore about the fairies. Yeah.
I'm just saying I don't believe in this timeline, I don't believe that people like veer towards compassion. I think we always veer towards survival. I think that's why I think ultimately we're doomed because people get scared. And they will not act in love or in the ways that we're supposed to because they get scared.
But to me, acting out of love is the survival. Like that's how humans have lived. I think for the most part is like maybe there's like exceptions where it's like, we don't know how to deal with this. We don't know how to deal with this. But if we're going Native American, I'm like, I do think like being open to the whole community and what makes that the most healthy.
This is all Walking Dead stuff. You know that? Did you ever watch the show? I haven't watched
Walking Dead.
There's the whole show.
Now I got to watch it.
Well, they're just rebuilding civilization. You know what I mean?
Afraid of zombies a little.
Well, and of outsiders because they don't know what's going to happen. So you see these different communities and how they're choosing to build, but a lot of it is out of fear. But ultimately, you're right. I think for things to grow and to expand, you do have to choose love. You do have to take chances, or else you're just locked down. And that's in our personal lives. That's in civilization. Absolutely, yeah.
Because we're all connected. We're all the same guy.
That's just not true either.
Atoms. Right now, as we're sitting on this couch doing this podcast, we're literally the same guy. Atoms flying.
Yeah.
We've exchanged all our physiology.
Yeah. I mean, I do believe that we are probably on some macro level, but I don't think we're the same as ice agents.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I think I'm an ICE agent. I actually do. I think that we're all like the same system. Like we're all like a bunch of connected fungus under the land.
Sure. If we're talking about the Matrix, yes, we're all connected.
Yeah. Did you know in the Matrix that initially they were going to make it instead of like you're like a battery, because that's how it was in the Matrix. They were going to make it like you're a computer, like, which makes more sense because humans don't give that much like electricity or whatever, but we do have a lot of computing power in our brain.
Well, why did they change it?
I don't remember. So I think it's just like people won't get it, or I don't know.
Yeah.
That would have been more interesting if I knew why they changed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not much of a point there. But, I have anecdotes.
Well, it's not like people I mean, I guess people got the energy thing, but I think we could have made the jump to computing.
I mean, I think that like if we were supposed to be batteries in the Matrix, we should have been laying there, but like forced to like bicycle our legs or something.
Oh yeah, that's better. But yeah, they didn't do that, so they may as well have made us computers.
Oh well.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, so we're all connected. I don't know. I feel like I have to do a lot of like I was house sitting in Huntington Beach for my dad this last week. I just got back last night, and I feel like I've been doing a lot of like while I was down there, like looking at MAGA, like looking at the MAGA people and being like, okay, what happened? Who are they? I'm a person just as they are. So something happened here that they were like, this is the logical conclusion. And Doppelganger talks a lot about that too.
Yeah.
In terms of like, what's interesting is my dad's neighbors who are liberal came over and started talking to me, and they were just like, yeah, it just makes us sick. Some of our next door neighbors here are like,
Wait,
Nazis.
is your dad MAGA?
No,
Okay.
no, my dad's like a engineer, atheist type of guy. Too smart to be MAGA is what I'm trying to say. No offense. Although there are somewhat smart MAGAs. So
anyway. No, I think they're smart conservative people, but they generally are just trying to get rich.
They're rationalizing, I guess.
Yeah, and a lot of it it's always just about not paying taxes generally.
Is it that good to be rich?
Of course not.
All right. So how smart are they? But anyway, so they came over and they were like, it makes us sick, all these basically Nazis in this area. And then they were like, the problem is that we swung too far left, that now it's swung this far right. And I'm like, did we swing that far left? Not really.
Yeah, just a black president who kind of does the same thing as every other president.
Right.
But we're at our core like so racist. You know what I mean? And America is racist, transphobic, homophobic, and I don't even mean that I don't even care if it's a bad thing or not. It's just It is the thing.
Well, I think the reason I've been like looking at the way that I am an ICE agent or the way that I am a MAGA is because I'm a white person who was raised in this country, and I'm like that's all been wired into me somewhere, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we've all been we all have our internalized racist and stuff like that, but who cares that you're white? Like, you didn't choose that. You know?
I think it's so interesting right now for some reason to myself.
That you're white?
I think there's something really funny there. Like, there's something like funny about the lies that white people have to tell ourselves just to get by. I mean, ultimately, day to day, I'm not living my life like, oh my God, I'm white. But like, I'm like, I was born this way. I'm just a guy walking around. But like deep down in my subconscious, I think it's really interesting, especially because I'm a woman. I'm like, white women, what a fascinating, and you're an expert. You're an expert on white women. But what an interesting way to wire somebody to be like this like victim, but also like this like cop in a way, and like also like.
Yeah, I mean, being a woman is awful, I would imagine.
It's easy. Well, it's interesting. I was about to say it's easier now that I'm older, but it's like when I was younger, and I'm talking like 12 also, like 12 to 25 is really scary.
Yeah.
It's really and I remember like the second I got like boobs at like 10 or 11 or something. And I just remember the change, and like, it was like, watch your back now, because you're walking down the street and guys are like, oh
my God.
And it's like, and so then it's like you're living with all this weird trauma, but then like you're getting all this messaging that it's like, oh, it's like immigrants and black people that are like actually what you're supposed to fear, and you got to keep them in place in order to
Did you ever feel
survive.
That way?
Not consciously.
But maybe when you were a kid or something.
Feel like racist?
Sure.
Yeah, I really have to think about that, because I think if I did, it's been buried. I think a lot of the whiteness experience is burying things.
And where did you grow up again?
I grew up in Cerritos, and then we moved around a lot in Southern California. So I had a pretty like.
You had brown people around you a lot.
Yeah, I mean, all my friends in like one of the elementaries I went to, at least in Cerritos, like all my friends were Mexican, to the point where I like had a Mexican accent as a little kid. I did. I just wanted to speak like all my friends. And then I'd even be like, you know, like how Hilaria was like, how you say that? I would do that. I would be like, what's the word for this? And I was just like fitting in, you know, and I liked all my friends. It was so much fun. But then I was living at my grandma's at that time, and like, my grandma was racist. And I say was because now she has like such bad dementia that she's like forgotten she's racist or Republican. But I went home and I was like talking like that, and she was like, "You're white, damn it. Talk like you're white." And I was like, "Hey, whatever, grandma."
You're being stupid.
So, but yeah, living with my grandma and grandpa, they were like getting that stuff in there and like homophobic stuff and also just like general sex shame stuff for women. Like,
yeah, that's a real, I mean, I definitely believe yes. And still people don't like to talk about sex, or if you mention it, and not even in a gross way, they're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I'm like, relax, you know. But yeah, I don't care. I think everyone has it pretty rough, except for rich people. I think it's just a money thing, and I think you would agree with it.
But there's rich people don't seem to have it that good either because they're so weird.
No. Yeah, being rich, in order to justify yourself being rich, you have to alienate yourself from your community,
right?
And that's why they get weird.
You know, I worked for a rich celebrity for a little bit, and she's older. And she lives like in Bel Air. And the way that her life is so isolated and paranoid, I was like, this is a miserable life that you have to be here to protect this mansion. And also all her children and family are celebrities. And I'm like debating in my head whether or not to tell you
who it is.
It's the Coppola family situation.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, but it's just like, and I'm helping go through their things to like say, what can you get rid of? But they're Coppolas, so everything's so fucking special. Every note they take, everything's so fucking special, and that is so exhausting because you're gonna die.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
No, but that's why rich people become Republicans generally and lean towards this way. It's all to justify them being okay. But it really, I was just thinking about this the other day. I know everyone says billionaires are evil, but it's pretty fucked up. I forget, I listened to this guy, Scott something. He's on the podcast with Krista Swisher. He's like a real kind of like liberal finance, like, and like a men, boys advocate that I actually like a lot. But he has this rule where he says just pick a number, and anything past that number, just give it away and spend it all. And he's like, my number was $100 million.
Yeah.
And he was like, after that, he's like, I just give it away. I take a bunch of people on trips. I just do crazy shit with that. Because what do you need more than $100 million for?
It must be kind of like gamified. Like, like when you're playing a video game, you're like, 1 billion points.
It is. I mean, you think about someone like Elon Musk, he just wants to win. And to them, these are the scores. And so you just want to keep accumulating.
Sometimes I have compassion for Elon Musk.
Well, because you're both autistic.
True. Because sometimes when I'm like just trying to tell people like my heart goes out to you because I'm autistic, it looks like a Nazi salute.
I was just doing my heart goes out to you.
and when my heart flies out, it really flies hard.
I mean,
and you have to toss it like a frisbee.
Dude, how fucking tone deaf was that when Dave Chappelle brought out Elon Musk right after they just fired a bunch of people at Twitter?
You know what's so weird is I was getting sad today thinking about Dave Chappelle.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking like, I think there's a part of him deep down that's like this really good, like egalitarian person. And then there's just like some bullshit, like garbage on top of that. Because when you hear about like things he's done, like helping other comics or like helping his fucking community in Ohio keep their housing or whatever, and then you're like, deep down, this is a guy that's like community oriented.
Well, I don't know that stuff about Ohio. I don't know if that's true. I think he's trying to keep people out. Are from building apartment buildings and stuff.
Oh, I don't know. I don't even know anything about it.
Yeah.
Generally, I imagine him going to community meeting and be like, I'm speaking up for all my neighbors here.
No, all these people, Dave Chappelle and Joe Rogan, and who have hundreds of millions of dollars, you don't hear about them doing anything for their community.
Dang.
Yeah, you never hear them do one.
Joe Rogan, though, I have heard like some comics be like, I had a surgery and he like paid for it.
That's cool. He's nice to comics, you know. Yeah. Cool.
Because, you're like a generous person.
Sure.
And I always am like, some people are so cool, but then they're like so tight with money. And that always like stresses me out because I'm like, when you like split a bill with someone and it's a small bill or something, And then they're like, you owe me $5.40. And I'm like, you don't want me to just give you a $5 or something?
You know people like
usually
that?
I do. We both do. But usually I'm like, I'll get it, but yeah. I remember when we went to the Improv and then they were like, you have to buy 2 items. And then you saw my face just go white. You know what it's like when the bank account is low.
Yeah.
And then you were like, oh, I'll get nachos and then that can be your thing. And I was like, that stuff really always sticks with me, the kind of generosity. And that I feel probably at least Joe Rogan I've heard has.
Yeah. But he had hundreds of millions of dollars.
I think this was before though. But I don't know. I don't know how long he's been
no. I mean,
rich.
I think he probably is generous with comedians. People say when he would park his car at the Comedy Store, you're going to get 100.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. And but to me, I'm saying that these are the least of. This is the least you should do.
Yeah.
And I do know that people don't do that kind of stuff, but yeah, hundreds of millions of dollars, and all he does is complain about things when he could fix things. Mm-hmm. And those people would say it's not their job to fix things; it's the government's job. But then they hit the government, so I don't know what to tell you.
All right, let me. I want to.
Okay.
Because my card got declined for the fucking cloud. So yeah, people hate the government. I don't know what our. Yeah, I do work for the city, and I will tell you that it's really inefficient.
Yeah.
It's really ridiculous. Some of the bureaucrats that work there, you're like, Jesus, you make this so dumb.
Well, that's why people hate the government, right?
Yeah, for sure. But I'm like at the same time, everything does get done. It's just,
yeah,
there should be cuts, and we should have more reasonable people working there that aren't like so obsessed with the paperwork and the whatever. But I'm also like, at the end of the day, the library is running.
Yes.
Yes. You have a public library.
Yeah, that is cool. And I think the people at the library make a decent living, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's what's a society for except to ensure. I think Michael Moore made some documentary one time where he went around the world and he like took a thing from each country, and at the end I remember him saying like that's what a society is for, is just to make sure their citizens are happy. And what are we doing? What are we doing?
No, I agree with that. When I look back on my childhood and I look at, because I'm telling you, I was growing up in this conservative kind of environment with my grandparents and stuff, had on Bill O'Reilly and Fox News all the time. And to them, like Michael Moore was just like the biggest nut possible. And like, that was my like takeaway.
Yeah, I grew up in church. I still might be a registered Republican.
Really? So you don't vote in the primaries?
I think it's almost behooves me to be a registered Republican in LA, because then I can vote in the Republican primaries. But maybe I'm not anymore. I don't know. Initially, I voted for Bob Dole. That was the first president I voted for.
Awesome.
I
know. Awesome. Who played Bob Dole? Dana Carvey?
Maybe, yeah. He's just holding the pencil all the time.
Giant ears.
No, that's Ross Perot.
Oh, I'm thinking of Ross Perot.
Yeah. But he might have played.
I think it was Dana Carvey still, though.
Yeah,
because I remember him saying, I'm Bob Dole. Politics back then, I remember just turning on CNN and it was like Bob Dole and Bill Clinton, and it was just so boring. They would just be talking about policies and...
Yeah, that's what it's supposed to be.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, I can hardly watch this. But sorry, you were saying, so you were...
I was just always growing up conservative because I grew up in the church, but I consider myself a Republican too. But a lot of that's around abortion. Or I just didn't think about it. Growing up in the church, I didn't think about politics. But it might have been the time too. People, it wasn't that big of a deal. Now it's everything.
Right.
What a waste.
The stakes got high.
Yeah. Now it's everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know what the hell we're supposed to do, Jess.
I'm not really sure. You just looking at my sign?
No, I'm just like, I know everyone's always telling us to do things and that we can change things, but there's a huge part of me that does not believe that thinks that's American individualism.
Yeah.
And, even when I'm thinking about World War III or war on Iran right now looming in the background, without technology, this stuff would have been happening in the Roman Empire. It's just happening. It will always be happening in the background, and most people have no part in it.
Clearly, you haven't seen Star Wars.
That's American bullshit. Yeah. Yeah, we're supposed to like rebel against this government. By what? With what? We don't even have these fighter jets. Man, that would be cool if people made
I have a fighter jet.
That would be cool if we made planes to fight America.
I think the thing is like there's so many of us.
Yes.
There's so many people that like even if just 1% show up to a protest, it really disrupts our whole little capitalist time. So it's like I don't know. The thing
if we could do where no one works for a day or two, yes, that would fuck everything.
I think it's possible.
I hope it is.
I think it's possible, and the thing is, it's only possible if we say it's possible. But I'm not like this like super positive optimist kind of guy. I'm not like we can be the change. But I'm just like, what else are we doing? Like,
yeah,
I've got ICE running around my fucking neighborhood. I have to like post when they're there and like walk around and show up to the protests and like let them at least know they're not wanted.
I mean, that's the thing too, is like when's the point where we like just start punching these guys? Because that's the real thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was wondering like, because yesterday we were getting calls at my restaurant job like, oh, ICE is close by. So everyone was fucking nervous.
Yeah.
And that's so sad because it's just like, Jesus, just making burgers in here. Now we're all afraid, like, Jesus Christ, like, but I was kind of thinking like, I wonder what my punch is like right now. I wonder if I could get a good, because did you see that video where the guy got punched in Huntington Beach during the No Kings?
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah. And it was just such a quick little jab.
Yeah.
And I did take boxing for a couple years. So I'm like, theoretically, I know how to punch. And I'm just like, I wonder if I could just get one in.
Well, that's what I mean. That's what makes Luigi like so incredible.
Yeah,
is he did the right thing.
Luigi comes up every episode.
Well, I mean, that's why everybody is like, wow, because the right thing for us to do is to beat these guys up. That would be the right thing for us to do. Is when you want to talk about there's more of us. It's just for us to fucking beat the shit out of these guys. That's the right thing to do.
I think the whole thing about like, oh, let's peaceful protest, to me, that's a strategy just to get more of us out and like to get it bigger and like let it like, oh, we're just peaceful protesting, and then it's like, but we can't really believe that that's the thing.
Well, a lot of people do, but like I said, the right thing for us to do would be to beat these people up if they tried to like steal our friends and neighbors.
Let's go.
I mean that's what I'm saying, but you have to be willing to go to prison for that. I mean that's how you take down these things. That's what Martin Luther King did. That's what all those guys did. Although they did nonviolent, and I don't know if that's going to work right now.
I think all of it has a role: the nonviolent and the violent, and unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, the nonviolent does not seem to be working, so we'll see.
Well, it's got to build. It's
got to build towards violence.
we got to build more people, and then there has to be nonviolent pressure and then some violent pressure. But we're still in the like building the nonviolent part. The problem is with all this social media is the way that it starts like repressing it punishes you for posting. So it's such a good tool. Like, hey, ICE around the corner, but then it's like it shoves you down the algo.
Well, yeah. I mean, social media is never going to be the solution. It can be. It can help some ways, but you're right. They do that shit. They don't give a fuck. But they'll turn that off at some point.
Yeah,
like they do in China.
So yeah, Steve, I don't know what to do. I don't know what's going to work, but it's like, I'm going to show up. What else am I doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah, true.
It's not like I have a good job or kids or, well, you have kids, but
I'm a boss and I have a kid.
Dang.
Yeah.
So I'll go to prison for you.
Man, have you been to jail?
I had to think about it, but no.
Yeah, it's rough. I went for not paying some traffic tickets.
What?
Well, I just didn't pay. I got 2 insurance registration tickets like back to back in a week. Usually the next week you would say, hey, I got one already. And they're like, oh, okay. But I lost it. I didn't have it on me. And so I had a suspended license for years. And I would just drive to work and back. I wasn't like cruising around or anything. And I got pulled over a few times. And I would just tell the cops, hey, listen, I'm coming from work. I live right there. I have a suspended license because of insurance registration tickets. And most of them were like, all right, just go home. Like most of them were cool. And then finally I just got one that was not cool. And then I had to go to Citrus Courts. So I spent the night in like Covina jail. And then I went to Citrus Courts the next day where they bring people from Twin Towers to get arraigned and stuff. And then I went back to Twin Towers. I was processed. It takes like 12 hours to just move you to room. I got into the big, like, I forget what the name of it is, but it's just beds everywhere and everything. And then they left me out like 6 hours later.
Nice.
But it was awful.
Really?
It's crazy. Yeah, it wasn't awful like the people were that bad or anything. That I mean, there were obviously criminals and stuff like that, but everybody was just like it was just county, so everyone's like, just be cool. And but it's just crazy to be in a cage.
Yeah.
To like not have control of your life like that, even if it was for that amount of time. As an adult, it just feels like nuts.
Yeah, we shouldn't do that to people.
Well, some people you need to do it. I mean, I don't know. How can you have a society?
Haven't you seen that? There's like some documentary where they show like some prison in like Norway or Sweden or something.
That's another Michael Moore movie.
It's just like, right. Yeah. Is it really?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like a house and they're just like all living. It's like actual rehabilitation.
Sure.
I do think like if a society has everything that it needs, like you're not going to have that many deranged psychos.
That is, I believe that is true. I believe most crime is caused because of poverty. But with this many people, I don't know how many deranged psychos you're going to have.
Yeah, there's a lot of people at this point. That's why you got to keep abortion.
True.
You got a mother knows.
I've got to kill this one. I've got to kill this one. That is absolutely true. But that's something that Christians will say too. They'll say it's like an atheist thing that we shouldn't kill everybody. I mean,
wait, what?
Christians believe that that's part of why abortion is wrong. That atheists think that they're just trying to play God.
Yeah, well, we all are kind of God, right?
I mean, that's what the Gnostic Gospels say, but that's not what Christians believe.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm into the Gnostic Gospel. Hey, I want to talk about this youth pastor to comedian pipeline.
Yeah.
That you've gone through.
Yeah.
I wonder like what in your life started making that switch that my partner has a cousin who's a pastor.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of jealous of it because you got a spot every week and it's like
1 hour.
You get a whole hour every week and then it's like your people are supposed to come.
Yeah.
Because like of God.
Yeah.
And it's like that's so your built-in audience is incredible.
My high school group had like 200 to 300 people in it. And I would get 45 minutes to an hour every week.
Did you write jokes in?
Yeah, of course.
Do you remember any of them? Like, and Mary was.
No, I didn't have, it wasn't jokes like that. I would kind of like.
Where are you from?
What high school you get it? Oh, that's a good one.
What's the worst sin you ever did?
But you know what is great about it too? And I've thought about this in terms of stand-up. Because we, I guess this is why late night shows work too. We think of stand-up, I think of stand-up as you're going to town and your jokes are supposed to be accessible to all these people. But if people come to you every week, then you're able to do more like high level stuff because You're just building on what they know before.
I mean, that's like the last time I had that was in San Francisco at the Mission Position at Lost Weekend Video.
Yeah.
That was like having people that are there to actually see some of your stuff and know you.
Yeah.
And like, that's awesome. And I feel like I haven't been able to build on my...
I mean, I really feel like that's what I'm able to do at Chatterbox at the open mics. To me, my best stuff is... now that we have a set of the night on Tuesdays, I host that every week, and I do 10 minutes up top, and I really have to start recording because I'm like killing sometimes, but that's because everybody knows like I
love performing for comics.
Yeah, it's great.
They're my people.
Yeah, I mean, I truly believe that the only people that really care about stand-up are other stand-ups.
Yeah.
And when you love it enough, you just become a stand-up. It happens all the time.
Right.
So I think regular people, this boom, they just want to go see famous people. I don't think they give a shit about joke structure or any of this stuff.
I was feeling really depressed this morning about like just all the crowd work clips. Not that they can't be good and stuff, but I'm just like, I feel like I used to always like judge the guys that were quoting like Bill Hicks and George Carlin too much, but now I miss them. now I'm like, we've lost the plot.
You know what's so funny is I opened for Chris Estrada at the Oxnard Levity Live this past weekend, and there was a show where it's like the people are right there in front of you. They're like on these long banquet tables, and I was like asking them things, and I told them in the middle of it, I was like, I'm genuinely curious about all these things. I'm not doing crowd work right now. I want you guys to know that. So I would like ask them about their lives or whatever. And I was just genuinely curious. And I bet you I think like Mike Falzone's probably like that. Mike Falzone's a big crowd work guy, and he always like in threads, he'll always like talk shit about people who talk shit about crowd work. And he's like, sorry, I'm looking for a once in a lifetime experience with my crowd every night.
No, I can like crowd work sometimes, and but the whole Instagram thing makes it just weird and boring. But like if you're in the moment at a place, it can be so fun.
Yeah, I mean, well, think about how many of these fucking comics actually are curious about people. They're not. They're mostly monsters.
Can I tell you about my most amazing crowd work moment that I've ever had?
Yes.
You know that joke I do where I'm talking about, I don't really do it anymore, but it's like I'm talking about how we don't have like a good way of talking about death.
Okay.
That we're awkward about it. It's not very, it's not like very profound. It's always like, oh, I'm sorry for your loss. It always feels like a flaccid to me, like I don't know, saying they died, sorry. But like my joke is basically like, oh, in like fucking movies in medieval times and stuff, they're like, your father was a strong warrior whose light shines down upon, and I go on that of, and the sword you carry with the blood he spilt is whatever. It's like, so like, it's like, yes, my father who has died, But I had this, and I would kind of start it off by talking about like, I know people who have had parents that have passed away recently. And then I like felt this energy from the side of the room, and it was like dark, so I couldn't see people. But I was like, did you have like and this was before we're filming for clips.
Yeah.
Some people had started. I'm always behind. But I was like, to like this table, I was like, did you have someone pass away recently? I was like doing some psychic shit, and he was like, yeah, my dad died last week. And the whole like crowd was like, ugh. And I was like, what was the experience? And he was like, it was like a really moving like teaching experience, and it was like a real moment. But I was like, dang, I'm a little psychic though.
But you really did feel that energy over there? Yeah.
I was like, I felt like this reaction.
How did you get back to comedy after that?
I just started telling my joke. It went really smooth into my joke, and then everyone laughed at and he shall rain his sword. And,
yeah.
But I think that because the guy was like kind of positive and he wasn't like, how dare you? That could have been, I guess, bad.
Yeah, it could have been real bad.
Yeah. But my energy was gentle. It's not like I was going to roast him because he had a dad that died. You know what I mean? And he could have just been like, no, or I don't know.
I mean, that's the magic of stand-up. And, I know you and I probably feel that way. To me, that's why it's like, we've got to, I know you're broke, but we got to find something for you where you're just not broke. and then just keep doing stand up. To me, somebody asked me this the other day. They're like, what do you want? I was like, I think ideally I would love to do, because it's so fun doing long sets. In the perfect world, I would not mind managing the Chatterbox still. Business is down. I wish I could get it up. I'm trying to figure it out. But
Sorry, you can't get it up.
It's mostly Monday through Wednesdays. Everyone's terrified. Nobody wants to spend money. But even trying to figure out, I like it. But I'd love to go do a weekend once a month. I think that would be really cool. It would be really fun. But also mostly, and this is, I don't know, and I'm sure I actually know you do feel this way. I was like, when you're talking about great comics, you better put me in the conversation. Like when you're talking about LA and comics, I was like, you better. And that's the thing that kind of bugs me about the store sometimes, is the Comedy Store is its own thing. It's gotten so much better. But there's a lot of those people when we go there, I'm like, come on, look at me. You know, whatever this thing is, fine. But you better know I'll fucking murder you. I'll kill you. I could kill this room, all of this stuff. So to me, isn't that so funny? That's just such a prideful thing where I'm like, all I care
I think it's good though. And I think that's what's helped me to become a stand-up is I remember someone that I started out doing stand-up with, we were like in Bellingham where I went to college. And then this guy, we were at this comedy club that's owned by Ryan Stiles. Ryan Stiles lives in Bellingham and he owns
Who's Ryan Stiles?
He's Whose Line Is It Anyway? Like the tall guy, Drew Carey show and that stuff. And I was watching all these comics go up there and I was like, oh, I'd be so nervous to go up there. And then the comic, you know, I needed to be around that male confident energy because he was like, we should both be up there. We're better. And I was like, oh, actually, that's true. And I think that's positive. That's like a positive thing for me to like kind of remember is like, I belong here.
Yes.
But you know, I also kind of thrive on being underestimated.
Sure.
And I think that works to my advantage so much in stand-up. And that, you know, in stand-up sometimes. And it's like, I also like to kind of like live in that space of like, oh, I don't know, you can put me up if you want, you know. But then they do. And then it's like, glad you did. I'm sure you glad you did. That was one thing I was saying, like, I got kind of freaked out in the middle of the night when I found out like Israel like was starting to bomb Iran, and I was like, oh shit, we're all gonna die. And then I was like, I put out some good stand up though. I did have that feeling, so that's good to know about myself.
You got your album.
Yeah.
No, but that's a recorded piece. I don't have anything yet. At least you do have the album.
Yeah.
Whether or not you're like, oh, that's the greatest thing or whatever.
Yeah.
That's why I got to hurry up and record my thing because it's almost over.
Yeah, you got to put it out there for the aliens to discover.
Well, just something where I could put my flag in the stand. It's the sand.
My legacy.
I know.
Yeah, it's I think that like my stress of not being discovered or noticed or successful, like kind of went away the first time Donald Trump became president because I was like, oh, success doesn't mean anything. Like the best people are not, this is not our best guy.
Yeah.
Because I used to think like, oh, people that said like, I don't mind like living a humble life. I'd be like, that's because you're a loser. Yeah. But then once Trump became president, I was like, oh, I've just been thinking like Trump this whole time.
Yeah.
And like, that's not even true. And like Trump's a loser and he's the president. So
yeah, I mean, the things it takes to win in this world are disgusting. You have to throw the people under the bus all the time. People that you love and trust and care about. Yeah, people leave their families to come to LA and they love their families and they leave them for TV. That's disgusting.
My dream.
Yeah, that's disgusting. But that's America too, where America says we're supposed to value each other's dreams more than everything, more than the collective. Fuck that noise.
It gets you through high school though.
I don't know. You wouldn't be surprised to find out I had a good high school experience.
You had a good high school?
My senior year and my 8th grade year were incredible. Like some of the best years of my. So I hope, I'm praying that my senior year in life is going to be incredible.
Hell yeah. You're like, I come through the last year always.
Yeah, truly. The senior year and 8th grade year, I just spread around enough love, and then people know me, and then by the end, they're like, oh yeah, this guy's great.
I had a lot of okay middle school and high school times. Ultimately, I was a little bit depressed, but I had an okay, time being the class clown or whatever I was, I wasn't like goofy class clown, you know me. I was like kind of sarcastic quips.
Yeah.
Kind of. So I had fun, but ultimately I never like looked back on it nostalgically. But actually, same after I kind of spun out about Israel bombing Iran, it was just too much news for me. I was like dealing with ICE stuff, and then that happened, and I was just like, you know what? This is fucking stupid. And then I was at house sitting for my dad, so I was like in this space where I was a teenager watching MTV and VH1, and I was watching this show called Ginny in Georgia, which is like kind of this high school. When you're at your parents' house, you just watch stupid shows.
Sure.
So I was watching the show, and it's a lot about her high school experience and like the longing and I wish I was more popular, my friends, and what's going to happen at this and this and I just like started crying, and I was like, I want to be in high school again. I want to wonder when I'm getting hot. I want to like pine over a guy. I want to like dream about my future on Broadway. Because I wasn't happy, but like all the shit that I obsessed on, for some reason, I was like sad that I'm not going to have that back.
Yes. Once a year, I'll have a dream where the church needs me to go preach again, where they're like, something's gone wrong or something, and like, Steve, we need you back, like just for this one Sunday. And I always wake up like so happy. It's like the happy, it's like, wow, that's so cool. I feel like to be a Christian and to do that job, it's a calling, and you feel like you're doing exactly what God wants you to do. Nothing feels better in the world.
How come you don't have that anymore?
Because it's not true.
Dang. Yeah.
There is no God. It's so funny. Stevana and I have a podcast called Straight Up with Steve and Stevana. And we argued a bunch about it this past episode we had with Vince Caldera that comes out next week. But we argued, she was like, I could never date a man who doesn't believe in God. But like the God she believes in is so weird and like just does what she wants that I'm like, what's it matter if a guy just says, I believe in God? Like, I don't even know what that means to you.
I remember saying that to my like atheist grandpa. The other side of the family. I was like, because I think my grandpa told me like, yeah, I'm an atheist. And I was like, I was a Christian high schooler.
Yeah.
And I was like, I could never be with someone who doesn't believe in God because it would just hurt too much. And he did that. He laughed in my face. And I was like, this is the saddest moment of my life. But I don't know what happened to us, so we stopped believing in God.
We got smart.
Dang.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying there's definitely no God of the Bible like that.
Right.
You were talking about connective tissue of the universe and stuff. I think you can call God something like that. But there's definitely no guy who's pulling for us individually. You know, there's no guy that cares if I like win the big game. You know what I mean? And that's the person. That's the God Stevana believes in. And I'm just like, oof. It's just I don't want God to care about me that much. That would be a sad God.
Yeah. I feel like right now, like religion is playing so much of a role in everything that's happening. You got Israel, you got the US, you got Iran, and everyone's got one of the big three religions that are, in my opinion, kind of the same religion. You got Judaism and Islam and Christianity.
None of it's like any of that. It's all power, and all of it. It's nakedly displayed as power too. I mean, any kind of credibility Christians had in this country is gone as soon as they back Trump like this. And Israel is straight just up about power and probably Israeli superiority in their own way too.
But the church plays a big role in propping these guys up. And what's with that?
Now, yes, because they're nakedly hungry. Like,
But a lot of the people sitting there that are showing up for sermon are like, I'm doing this for God, and they believe that.
Yeah, because these people are lying to them and they're stupid. Like my mom's still a really strong Christian, and she's one of the most gullible people I've ever met in my life. She's like, she has not met a pyramid scheme that she hasn't wanted to dedicate 6 months of her life to. I remember once she always gets to these things. I'm telling you, this is maybe 7 years ago, where one time she was like, I'm going to be a travel agent. Or like it was 6 or 7 years ago, like not that long ago. And I was like, Mom, people just book their stuff on the internet now. And she said, not everyone.
So do you have like a spirituality now?
I don't know.
You ever pray?
No, absolutely not. Although, there are, I having my daughter now, I could see why people pray. And there are things that I say out loud where I hope for her. But yeah, I don't pray to anything. I think it feels probably good to talk about those things out loud, and to ask for those things. And there might be some kind of energetic thing where it really helps. But I don't do that. Do you?
Yeah.
You pray?
Not like, dear God, I hope that I pray in your name, but I will say things out loud.
Yeah, I do that. But you're not saying it to anyone, really, right?
No, not really.
Yeah.
Not really.
Yeah, I do that.
Helps to say, but I think I am speaking to something spiritual.
Yeah, like that might be a thing.
The force of nature.
Something. Hilda did something so cute the other day where I was like, oh man, I could see why people like why parenthood just breaks your heart. There's like a bucket swing, and I'll push her on and then she just kind of goes limp, and she like put her head back and was just like feeling the breeze and closed her eyes, and I was like, oh my God. I was like, the fucking life is heartbreaking.
That's beautiful, though.
It is beautiful. It's hard, but it is hard. I mean, I don't think those things are mutually exclusive. I think real love is fucking heartbreaking.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah.
I don't even have a kid, but even just having a partner, I'm like, it sucks to care about someone this much and like be responsible for like the way I am in their life. And like,
yeah, I mean,
I told him that before too. I'm like, God, this sucks. It's such a responsibility.
Well, the real crazy part about it too is I think about Julia all the time, and no matter how much time we spend together and talk to each other, I'll just like never know her internal world or what's really going on inside. Because I know all the crazy shit that's going on inside of me. And I haven't even cracked the surface of a lot of the stuff. And then there's stuff that I don't even know about that's going on inside of me,
I know. Yeah, we're just skimming the surface. We're like those 10-year-old boys with their little skim boards at the beach, just going along the edge of the shore.
Yeah.
That's fun though.
Sure. Yeah.
All right, Steve. I kind of like ending on this way of like, if this timeline could be shifted by turning some kind of a knob, what would that look like to you? Like, what would your ideal timeline switch into? Where you're like, now this is going in a way that I would like.
What's an answer you would give?
I would say maybe there would be some kind of illness that for some reason only like billionaires get.
Everybody wants to be a billionaire.
They get it from the Epstein Island.
But everybody wants to be a billionaire.
I don't.
Yeah, I know. When I say everybody, I don't mean literally everybody. But that's what we aspire to. Our country.
I guess so.
That's why they elected Donald Trump.
Yeah. I don't know. Something has to happen where people come together. Like something has to switch. Well,
it will be war, nuclear war. It will be that kind of a thing.
All right. Go ahead and nuke my ass. I'm ready, man.
These are the things.
I've got a comedy album.
Yeah, these
already.
are the things Timothy McVeigh like pulled for and everything. That's what happens. It's huge disaster brings people together. 9/11.
But then what does the world look like for you? We come together. Stand up gets better.
No, it's never getting better. It's a dead art.
Is it dead art?
No. It'll never be a dead art.
No, I kind of feel that way a little bit.
No, I think people making money off of it and stuff is disgusting in the way it is, but I don't think it'll ever be a dead art. No, the stuff we do in the room is too magical. It's too magical.
Magic.
If something changed and then the world got a certain way, that's what you're saying, correct?
Yeah, we're in Steve land now.
All right.
Steve's future.
I really do think that. Isn't this so? I do think it would be really cool if we had universal healthcare in this country.
Yeah.
I think that would be so cool.
I want universal basic income.
Yeah, that would be nice too. That's kind of what we were promised with robots and everything.
Yeah.
That everyone would be able to have more of a life of leisure. And now that the bill has come for the billionaires to pay, they don't want to pay it.
Sure.
But yeah, that would be cool. They've done tests where you give people like $1,000 a month and it just drastically changes their life. Just dramatically changes their life. That guy I was talking about earlier, Scott, whatever, he said that too. He said, if we just taxed, we know that he's like, even more than $10 million a year, the people's lives don't get better. The people are not happier. So that's even being generous to say a person, if they make $10 million, he's like, so if we tax the fuck after $10 million a year, and then we make 1,000 people's lives drastically better with, $1,000 more a month. And this is scientifically proven. This isn't like, this isn't hoopla or like bullshit leftist stuff. But if we as a society could take money that's not doing anything for anyone and make thousands of people's lives better, why aren't we doing that scientifically?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right. Steve, is there anything you want people to look out for?
Yeah, check me out on Hernia on Instagram and check out my podcast, Straight Up with Steve and Stevana. That's on YouTube and then other podcast places, but you're going to watch it. I'm just making disappointing faces at Stevana the whole time.
One of the funniest, fucking best stand-ups in Los Angeles.
Thank you.
Steve Hernandez, for being on Some Timeline with us. Thank you for joining us on Some Timeline. Don't forget to email us your thoughts, questions, songs, whatever, at sometimelinepod@gmail.com or leave us a voicemail at 747-666-7005. Thanks to our sound producer, Seth Hover, our musical composer, Jeff Traeger, our podcast artist, AJ Howard, and I'll see you next time on the next part of Some Timeline.